The project is called Strandwanderer. It is a pattern that I got, and it's on Ravelry, and I'm using my iPad to follow the pattern, and it's a little shawl kind of a thing. This is the shape. It's not my favorite shape, but that's what the pattern is written for. And it's knitting 10 rows of garter stitches, and then 3 stitches going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that means, you'd have to turn the project, turn it after 3 stitches. So I've had to learn how to knit backwards. This is a very clever kind of pattern, and here's my version of it. I'm using wool mice, which is any yarn that's will work that's kind of dyed in this manner where it goes through different sort of colors. And but the pattern calls for wool mice. So I am now to the part where I have to knit back and forth these 3 stitches. So the pattern calls for, oops, wait a minute, let me make sure my yarn is functioning properly here. Okay, here we go. So the pattern calls for knit 2, 1, 2, and then knit 2 together, and the wrap and turn. So the wrap, yarn in front, slip the stitch off the needle, and you would turn like this, and then you slip that stitch back to the right needle and knit the 3 stitches. And then again turn. Side note, I've realized I usually don't throw. I'm a continental knitter, so I'm looser throwing, so I've had to use a couple of size smaller needle on the right hand side. So, and that seemed to be okay, because if I use the right side needle, size needle, which is nice size 5 needle I'm using here, it's too loose. So this is what I've had to learn, how to knit backwards. So the pattern calls for 1, 2, knit 2 together, and wrap and turn. So yarn forward, slip off, put the stitch back, bring the yarn forward, go in through the back leg of the stitch, and throw and drop. Back leg, having to slow way down, and it's a little awkward because I'm not used to knitting this way, but it's much more efficient than having to turn around each time. So knit 2, knit 2 together, wrap and turn, slip off, put it back on the needle, put the yarn in the front, back to front, back leg to front, throw, back leg to front, throw, back leg to front, throw. Slow down. So on it goes like that. I'll do it one more time just so we get it. So we got 1, 2, knit 2 together, and the wrap and turn. Yarn in the front, go in the needle as purlwise, slip it off the needle, and put it back on the needle. Yarn in front, back to front. Oops, see, I'm not used to throwing. There we go. So there's a little click here. What happens is I wrap the yarn, and it has to go in between the needle and then lifts off. Back to front, throw the yarn, and there we have it. And then I realized that this is really a very nice bind off. So this particular pattern calls for 10 for the pattern to be 10 stitches in from the edge. But I realized if you start at the very beginning, you can use this as a bind off for bottoms of shawls. It's very stretchy, and it adds a very neat kind of element. So there you have it, Strandwanderer. I got it on Ravelry, and it's wool mice, size 5 needle, and when I'm binding off, when I'm knitting sideways like this, I'm using a size 3. Otherwise, the needle I'm knitting with the 10 stitches here is, the 10 rows here is size 5. And then I put these 10 stitches on the holder so my other needle is not flopping around, and because it becomes a lengthy project. I'm knitting sideways for quite a few stitches here, all the way, So, want to make it as easy and efficient as I can, and so I've had to learn how to knit backwards. And knitting backwards, garter stitch, as opposed to stockinette, is different. So here we go. Knit 1, knit 2. Knit 2 together, and then wrap and turn, wrap, put that stitch back on, put the yarn in the front, back to front, throw, and lift off, throw, and drop the stitch. There we go. When I'm not filming and not trying to do it so hard, it goes much faster. After a while, it becomes muscle memory, and you can do it faster. The speed picks up, and it's much more efficient. Okay, see you next time.